All right, welcome back to the next challenge. In this challenge, we are going to change photos inside of this museum. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and download the project files, drag them into a new project, and import them. So looking at this particular project, in the problem statement, it says, given the prefabs, write a program that randomly changes the picture when you click on the picture below. So looking at this, we have a single prefab, and I'm looking at this pictures game object, and then we have a painting here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the files themselves, and I do see that we have prefabs, and it looks like we have 5 different photos here. So we have painting 7, which is currently in the scene, and we need to go ahead and switch to 8, 9, 10, and 11, and then probably loop back around to the top when we reach the end of that. So to kind of break this down a little bit, what I tend to do is try to emulate the same behavior that I want out of the program itself. And I try to emulate that behavior through the inspector or through the Unity editor itself. Now, we could come in and have a picture object, and then we could have a spawn point on that picture object, and whenever we click on it, we could put a cube or cube collider or box collider on it. And when we click on that, it just changes out the mesh. That's one way of doing it. But I think looking at this based on the problem statement, it says given the prefabs. So we want to switch these prefabs out and do it that way. Now we could instantiate. It's up to you on how you want to do it. However, I think what we could do is go ahead and drag in these other photos here. Let me just grab all the rest of them and put them on top of pictures there. So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now, when I do this, you'll notice that all of these picture frames are different sizes. And because they're different sizes, the material switching solution is not going to work because that would squash the picture and the material would not wrap correctly around the frames itself. And also the frames have different shades to them is what it looks like. So we do need to go ahead and use this format of switching between prefabs. Now, one way that we could do this is to disable, let's say, all of these prefabs except for the top one. And then on the prefabs themselves, we have like this box collider, or perhaps we have a box collider on the pictures itself. And then all we need to do is have an array of these and then just simply disable when we click on one and then enable the next one in the array. So that could be one way of doing it. So now that we kind of have an idea of the way that we want this to work, we understand what our problem statement is, let's go ahead and move on into our first challenge. All right, so let's go ahead and break down our first task. So looking at the problem statement, we know that we have an array of picture prefabs. We need to switch those randomly. But I think what I want to do first is kind of take it from the user's perspective. So my first task is going to be input. So we're going to create some sort of mouse input, and we're just going to have that spit out a debug message just to show that we're clicking on a prefab object. Now, we may have to add some components to each one of our painting prefabs to recognize that, but let's go ahead and take a look at the documentation and see what we can find for using the mouse button to create some sort of input. All right, so based on what I know right now, let's go ahead and type in Unity, and let's go ahead and just go to the Unity docs and search straight from there. I'm going to go to the scripting reference, and let's do something like mouse input. Let's see what we get here. So we have input.mouse position, mouse present, get mouse button. This might be something that we could use. It looks like we need the update function, and we're just constantly checking to see if input is being created. I wonder if there's anything like what we had with the UI, because a UI event has like an on-click event, if you'll remember that. Let's see if there's something for a mouse. Let's say like on mouse, or maybe even like keyboard. Let's see like on mouse. Well, let's just use this. Let's see what we get here. We have on mouse down, dragger. I'm not sure what clickable, on mouse down, mono behavior, on mouse over, on mouse down. So called on mouse down event. Let's check this out here. This says experimental. This API is experimental and may be changed in the future. Okay. So that's a good warning to know. I'm kind of interested in seeing if this would work. Let's try it out. Well, I said let's try it out. I actually want you to try it out. Let's go ahead and jump into the folder structure here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to assets. I'm going to create a new folder, and let's call this scripts. And we're going to double click on this and create a new mono behavior. And let's call it painting click. Okay. And we're going to go in here and open that up. And so with that open, what I want you to do is, instead of trying to use the update function, let's try to use that event. Now, I know that it could change in the future, but, well, you know what? I'll give you the choice. Try both of them out. Try to use the update function to get input, and then to get the mouse input, and we want the left mouse button. And so when that has been pressed, all we wanted to do is print out a message to the console to say that the mouse has been clicked. And I want you to do that in the update function. And then once you've done that and that works, go ahead and try that on mouse down function or event and see if that works as well. So give that a shot, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so how'd that challenge go? Let's go ahead and switch over to our code. So we wanted to go ahead and create some input through the update function like we've done so far. So we're going to say if input dot get mouse button down. And then we want the mouse button. And I'm kind of thinking about this. What mouse button can we use? Let's say mouse button. Let's see, get mouse down. We could do the index of 0. And that will give us the left mouse button. And what we want to do is we want to say debug.log. And then the message we want to say is mouse, or actually let's say picture, or actually painting. Let's be consistent. So painting clicked. And then I'm going to do just a colon on that to say which one is being called. So I'm going to say update. And then let's go ahead and try out that experimental one. And I'm going to say void on mouse down. And I do see that there. And for this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to say debug.log. And we're going to say painting clicked. And then we'll say on mouse down. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and compile and test this out. Okay, so for our picture, we need to go ahead and select this, and we're going to add in the picture or the painting click script. And with this in place, if I go ahead and hit play, let's go ahead and click on the image, the picture, and we see painting clicked update. And so we have the update here, but I don't see anything else. We don't see the on mouse down. And so let me actually open this up, and I'm noticing that if I click anywhere, it is going to go ahead and fire off that update. So I don't want it to be anywhere. Let's also select our prefab, and let's add in a box collider to this. And this is going to take on the frame or the shape of that frame. And let's retry this one more time. So with the input that we have, we need to determine if we actually have a painting to click on. And so I'm going to click on that. Let's take a look at our console. And now I see on mouse down. So this on mouse down function just automatically detects the object that we have. Let's go ahead and click on this one, and you'll see that update is just happening no matter what. So we'll actually need to have some sort of check to make sure that we are working with the object that we want to click on. And right now, it's pretty easy to just use on mouse down. Now, the experimental thing, we could deal with that a little bit later. It may change as far as functionality goes, but I think for now, it gives us exactly what we want. So now let's go ahead and clean up our code. So inside of the code, I really don't need this update for now. I can go ahead and just get rid of that. And this works as intended. So this only checks to see if we're clicking on the object that this script is on. And so now we need to go ahead and move on into our next video where we'll talk about our next task.